Hello, everyone. I'm Pam George. I'd like to discuss my findings on my research, Navigating Transitions Well. Most people I know have experienced transition at some point in their lives. I have personally served in leadership roles for the past 30 years, and one of the hardest challenges I faced as a leader is navigating transitions. I've been on both sides of transitions as a leader, where I had to deliver the news of change, of letting someone go, and also been the recipient, where the news was delivered to me. I've also been part of a group where I witnessed someone being let go. Whatever the role was, change was hard. I can recall a situation where someone I admired was demoted from her leadership role. It wasn't long after that she was plagued with depression, health challenges, despair, and she quit. When I reached out to her, I was shocked that this woman I respected was sitting devastated in her living room after years of serving an organization, not having any emotional support or direction. Although she had received a severance, her psychological needs were not met or considered. The intent of this research is to provide leaders with some tools to navigate transitions well. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the problem, who's impacted, and provide leaders with tips to navigate transition well. Keep an eye out for the tips posted on the slides in this presentation. During transition, leaders often focus on the operational details of transition, but often overlook an unseen force that can derail the whole transition process. This force can break trust, organizational reputation, and halt the productivity of an organization. I'll be talking about this force in this paper. Within the research literature is called psychological contracts. This is even more important in Christian organizations where there's an expectation of being part of Christ's body or implications of being part of a family. Ephesians 2 teaches us to value people who've been created by God and to partner with God in equipping them to do the good works God had planned in advance for them to do. Employees often provide unspoken inputs within their job performance and expect unspoken rewards in return, such as security, recognition, equity, etc. Theorists Robinson and Russo named these unspoken expectations psychological contracts. When these psychological contracts are violated or dismissed, employees tend to believe that leaders failed to fulfill the unspoken rewards owed to them. Fisher's personal transition curve describes the emotional upheaval change causes. David Kessler, a grief researcher, says that regardless of the event, the grieving process is the same and should not be minimized. Instead, the person grieving would need to find support and meaning to move forward. For example, saying words like, "You're not alone in this transition," produces endorphins, which supports them to move through the pain of change. I conducted a survey with ministry leaders who experienced transition. Some of the expectations when entering the ministry included security, patience, consideration, and inclusivity, guidance, direction, clarity of expectations, communications, and a certain level of doing this together. They expressed that the transition violated some of their expectation. A common theme throughout was lack of transparency and diminished trust in the leadership. So how can a leader bridge that gap during transition and make it smoother? Many leaders recognize that there is a grief process, but do not think that it is their role to support the person going through transitions. Townsend disagrees. In his book, People Fuel, he argues that people cannot turn off their feelings of losses, and a leader who does not provide support for someone who's going through loss, even for a few minutes, is running the risk of engagement and turnover problems. He described relationships as nutrients necessary during change and cites neuroscience and attachment research that states health and growth comes through communication, acceptance, and attunement. Cloud, in his book Necessary Endings, recommend normalizing transitions to reduce the threat. Clear, transparent communication minimizes threats and provides the flexibility and focus needed to implement transitions. A leader may also say the person responsible for his own emotions. Although the person going through the transition has a rational and even maybe a spiritual mindset, when you compare it to the size of the emotional brain, the person is going to need support. A leader has control over the environment and with the right skills can minimize the threat that transitions bring. Managing the environment can guide the emotional brain. So in summary, when an employee's well-being and emotional state is prioritized by honoring psychological contract, building trust, valuing the person, a leader has the power to change this loosely structured change process into a well-managed change which minimizes the time required to move forward. Thank you.